Hey everybody, what's up? Masus here. Today I'm going to talk about JavaScript promises, which is an important topic in JavaScript. And if you want to work with frameworks like React, you definitely need to know and understand well JavaScript promises. In this video, I'm going to first explain it to you, and then we will have an example with each other to figure out what are the JavaScript promises are and how we can use them. By the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure to subscribe to my channel in order to get more videos like this one. JavaScript promises are using for handling background jobs. For example, you want to download an image and show it to your user. You can use a promise like the fetch function and download the image and do whatever process that you want on it, and then render it to the user. And if you don't use promises, you need to do all these steps using the main thread of your application, and in that way user will see a freeze screen on your application, which is not at all good for your user experience. To make it simple for you, imagine that a JavaScript promise is a function which should have one output, and the output would be either resolve or reject. When all the things are working as expected inside the promise body, we will return resolve. Otherwise, we will return reject. Okay, let me show you all these concepts via my example. Imagine that we are going to download all the users' data from the server, and this request will take about 2 seconds to be completed. And then after that, in the step 2, we are going to get the first user of that array that we downloaded in the step 1, and it will take about 1.5 seconds. And in the next step, we are going to get the user last name from the previous step, and in the step 4 we are going to print the result of last step. And as you can see, it doesn't take much time because it doesn't need to download anything from the server, and it will be run locally. Here, since we don't have any server and we want to make it as simple as possible, I just put the data here inside the variable, and we will do the process on this variable. So in the first step, I need to download all the users' data. To do this, we should use a promise. How we can do it? Let me show you. Here I'm going to define a new function. I'm gonna name it load users, and it should be another function, and here I just want to return new promise, and in this syntax I just need to define another function within this promise. It should have 2 parameters. The first one should be for resolve, and the second one should be for reject. And inside this function body, I am going to, for example, load the data or do some process, especially the heavy tasks. But here for our example, we just want to pass the data, so I'm gonna call resolve and name of my array. So when I call load users, it will immediately send the data array to my function. You can pass whatever you want using the first parameter of resolve function. It can be null, or it can be an array or a simple object. Or we can also use, for example, we can have some conditions. If data array exists, then I'm going to resolve this promise. Otherwise, it should return an error. How we can do it? We can easily call the reject function, and for example, I want to pass data array is none. There we go. Go for the second step, get the first user. Let me name it get first user, and this function accept users list from input, and it again return a new promise, and within it I again have resolve and reject, and inside it I'm just gonna check again if we had users list, then resolve it for me and pass the first element inside the users list. Otherwise, reject users list is empty. For the third step, let me name it get user last name, and again it accept first user and return a new promise, resolve and reject, and here I am going to first check if the first name exists, and if it has profile within it, then resolve it for me. First name dot profile, otherwise reject it. Doesn't matter what the error is for now. Just let's take a look at our array to see its structure. We have ID, and then we have profile object, and within it we have name and last name, and we have 3 rows inside our array. Here I want to call these functions. I should be careful to run them in a right order, because I cannot, for example, first call the get first user because I don't have users list. So let me create a function, load data, and I'm going to first call load users function. And when you use promises, because actually when I run this function it returns a promise to me, I cannot read the value of it directly because it's a promise, and it may take 100 seconds to be completed. So I need to write it in this way. I should add that then, and within then function I can have access to the result of this promise. If I run the result command inside my promise, the value will be sent inside then, otherwise it will send inside catch. And for example, you can get the error message here. So here I want to get the data, so I'm gonna name it users variable. And what do I want to do with this users? I'm going to run the second promise to get the first user of this users list. So get first user and then pass the users. And because currently we have data inside it, the reject won't be called, and so the catch function will never run here, but we can write something in it. But for example, console log error, because here in the result of this then function we asked JavaScript to run another premise for us. Again, we can have another then for this premise, and here I'm going to get the first user will be sent, because here as you can see we sent the first element of users list. So here I want to call get user last name, and I should pass it again. And again I should define the catch. You also can ignore every catch and it won't run if your premise faces with problems. And again I need another then for the result of get user last name function, which will be the last name finally. And here I just want to log console.log value is last name. Yes, let me run it. Load data. Yeah, as you can see, oh, we have a problem here. The problem is that we forgotten to add last name here. So yeah, as you can see, we received the Williams from the first item inside our array. As you can see, it was the somehow a complex example for the JavaScript promises, and if you understand this example, you're gonna understand every piece of code that is written using JavaScript promises. And finally, I have a bonus point for the guys that watch this video until the end, and it is that we can make it simpler, this syntax, when we have one argument here and we passed it to our function with this same signature. We can remove this section and again remove this, and it will work the same. For example, here I also can do it, but because I have values here I cannot do it. And for this one I also want to make it simpler. Yeah, as you can see, it works perfectly. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna make another video about async await inside JavaScript. We will write again this example to show you what is the difference between async and await and JavaScript promises. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to learn more about JavaScript, you can watch these videos.